Hello and welcome to the first episode of Practical Powerlifting. This is a new project that I'm undertaking and I'm really looking forward to it. My idea is that I want to speak to some of the best and most experienced powerlifting coaches, both in Australia and in the international community. I've obviously been involved in powerlifting for basically my entire adult life since I was 18, 19, I suppose, and I did my first comp when I was 20 years old. And in that time, I've developed a huge amount of experience and interacted with many great athletes and many great coaches, and my opinions have changed and my understanding of things have improved and developed and changed over the years too. When I first started lifting and coaching, a lot of the information that I found was obviously online, and even more so today. And a lot of that information was really theoretical. It was very much like, this is how programming works. This is how biomechanics works. This is what a moment arm is, and this is which muscle groups are involved when you do this exercise, and this is how to do this. And if you look at some of my old content, especially on YouTube, a lot of my material was very concrete and very, I guess, like scientific in some way, presenting clear understandings and knowledge. As I've gotten older, I think I've grown a much deeper appreciation for a much more subtle understanding of training. I've grown an appreciation for experience and the power of intuition and the power of developing hundreds and thousands of hours of experience and practice. And I find that to be a very interesting part of coaching and a very interesting part of training. And so over the next however long I'm able to continue this project, I look forward to speaking to some of these experienced coaches and hearing about how they apply the knowledge that's already freely available, how they practically apply, how they practically incorporate theoretical knowledge and understanding into their daily work, into their career. And so in today's episode, I thought it would be prudent to start by speaking with none other than my own wife, Billie, who we run the Strength Fortress together. And she has a huge amount of experience. For those that don't know, you're going to see it in the episode shortly. But she started the fitness industry much like I did, but even younger, I would say, opening her own gym on the Central Coast at, I think she was 19, she says, which to me is insane when you think about it. And to this day is, co-owning the Strength Fortress with me, working with people of all ages and abilities. Her strength is working with beginners and getting beginners into the gym. And it's interesting, the conversation that you're about to listen to, because she talks a lot about, working with these people and how, you need to understand that the person in front of you is a human being and not just a theoretical idea that's told to you in your personal training course. And so I hope you enjoy the conversation. So on to the episode. Thanks. So obviously you're my wife, and I know you probably better than anyone, but you're obviously have been in the powerlifting fitness space forever. So I dare say that everybody listening to this would already be familiar with you or I or both of us because, it's episode 1.
And because we're married.
Yeah, and because I can't imagine that, a random person on, the other side of the world who's never heard of either of us is like, oh, this looks like a great podcast. I'm going to listen to this. And so I think some sort of introduction is worthwhile. And maybe you can just tell listeners a little bit more, not so much about who you are right now, but who you have been and like how you've kind of come into the role that you do have. And what is that role?
Cool. Thanks for having me on. I started powerlifting in 2014. I had, been involved in sport in some capacity from a pretty young age, and came into powerlifting from bodybuilding. I guess like already being in a gym-based sport, it's like a pretty natural transition. I did my first competition in 2015 and it was a really misguided endeavor, but dare I say a very positive one, like retrospectively anyway, because it was such an enjoyable experience. It was such a positive, empowering, all of those types of things. And yeah, I mean, it's like birthed me my whole like career and most of my life from that. So I think it was really positive ultimately. I've been coaching powerlifting since like realistically not too long after I've been involved at TSF in some capacity since its inception 8 years ago. Been coaching there for the last 6 or so years. Obviously, you and I co-own the Strength Fortress together, which is a strength and powerlifting gym in Melbourne's inner west. Yeah, I coach there. That's my full-time gig. And I guess like primarily like my passion in the coaching space and the coaching that I primarily do at TSF is running total beginner programs and taking people from, total beginner with absolutely no gym-based experience whatsoever, through to commonly their first powerlifting meet.
You said that you did your first comp and you pretty much were coaching quickly after that, I think. Were you already in fitness when you did your first comp? Like, were you already in the fitness industry working as a
Yeah,
personal trainer?
exactly. I already owned my first gym at the time of that first competition. So I had been working in fitness for probably 3 or 4 years at that point.
And just for context, how old were you at this point?
I started working in fitness when I was 19. I opened my first gym at 20 or 21 and I did my first comp at 22. So
It's freaking young. Like for a lot of people listening to this, especially other coaches or personal trainers, there'll be personal trainers and coaches who are like in their 30s just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super young. So yeah, I did already have the gym, which was, my first gym was a women's only sort of group fitness type studio. But I mean, the beautiful thing about owning a gym is that it can take the shape of whatever interests you and wherever your passions are. So naturally, when I started having more of an interest in powerlifting, the people around me started having more of an interest in powerlifting and we started doing more strength-based training there already.
And so your actual like birth into the fitness industry was like a very typical one, because I think a lot of powerlifting coaches that I see nowadays actually almost skip that step. Like, they were sports people, they did other stuff, they start powerlifting and they go, wow, I like fitness, I'm going to start coaching people through fitness and strength. And they actually don't go through the experience of what you had at Bella, which was your gym, which is very quote unquote gen pop, right? It's very
personal
broad.
training. Yeah. Like it's very much personal training. It's not powerlifting coaching. It was just like group fitness instruction, personal training. I ran boot camps.
Right. And, and I think a lot of powerlifting coaches, including myself, never went through that stage. Like I never went through running boot camps. Like I never did that. I never, lugged tires down to the park and like made people run and jump and stuff.
I made my own sandbags. I filled them up at the beach.
So when Billie says that she had her first gym, it wasn't this empire. I mean, it became one, but it started from very bare beginnings, I suppose, right? Filling sand yourself at the beach. I think we
opened that gym with $4,000 in the bank. I went to tire shops and asked if I could have their old tires, and I filled the sandbags at the beach. Like it was a budget damn gym, and it got good upgrades. Like we did well, but it was humble beginnings.
I mean, as it would be when you're 21. And then now I'm jumping a little bit, but now, obviously we're at TSF, we're running, a powerlifting specific gym. It's like a very different look to what you were doing 10 years ago. And you commented that your passion now is more towards the beginner side of things. So I guess my first like real question from a coaching point of view is, can you elaborate a little bit more on like, what is your coaching passion and what is your coaching philosophy? Like, how do you approach coaching? What is your perspective and what is your place in the coaching space?
Yeah, cool. I mean, powerlifting is obviously my passion and it's the exercise modality that I most enjoy. So when it comes to coaching, it's like, the coaching that I do is powerlifting or at the very least powerlifting inspired training. Like certainly a large percentage of the people I coach aren't competitive powerlifters, but they're people that enjoy powerlifting. My real interest is like getting people involved in exercising in general, but getting people involved in sport. There's obviously a lot of benefits to simply being physically active, but there's also a lot of benefit to having competitive ambitions through being involved in a wider sporting community, through having like a mode of self-expression, through challenging yourself in these kind of ways. But I like the pathway of introducing people to that, not taking someone that's already good and making them a little bit better. I'm very interested in taking someone that is like, I don't know, I have a little bit of an interest in this thing. I'm a bit nervous. I'm a bit timid. I don't really know where to start. I feel like a bit of an imposter. I don't even know if I can do this thing. And then just showing them that like, of course you can do this thing. Like powerlifting isn't something that's like very inhibitive. It's endlessly scalable. So wherever someone's starting point is, whether that's squatting body weight, where it's squatting a goblet, whether it's squatting a barbell, you can absolutely take them from that point to being very, very capable in a competitive setting if they have the interest and the drive to do so. I think as a coach, I'm a very compassionate coach. I'm someone who really wants to work with the people in front of me. So if someone has, like, as I said, interest and drive, but also has like ample obstacles in their life that make that something hard for them to do, I'm very interested in navigating those and finding ways that we can work through it so they can weave exercise and sport into a life that might already be very, very full and very robust.
For those that don't know, you were a pretty good lifter in your time and lifted at nationals and even went internationally and stuff. What's that?
in my time.
Yeah, in your time. Well, I mean, you're not doing powerlifting now, right? And so, why do you think that? Well, why is it so important to you to work with beginners and get them started, like as you described? I guess like a lot of people that have experience in like competitive and good level sport, um, lean that way. They end up wanting to coach the national teams. They want to coach, good lifters. Whereas you've almost gone the other way, where you almost prefer to work with people who've never done weights before.
I absolutely
And
enjoy
I don't
that.
think that's because you prefer it, as in they're easier clients or anything like that. It's clearly like a passion. Like, why do you think it's important that you're doing that work?
I think that sport can often appear prohibitive.
Okay.
Prohibitive. It can seem exclusive. It can feel like something that you're either built for or you're not built for.
Hmm.
You're either a sport person or you're not a sport person. As far as like recreational level sport goes, I just think that's absolutely not the case. Of
Hmm.
course, like competing at a high level is prohibitive. It is exclusive. But at the grassroots level, at recreational sport level, it's not exclusive. I think that's the visibility of that is a lot more, yeah, I guess that is more visible in maybe more team-based sports, or I think strength sports feels particularly exclusive. If someone wanted to play social netball, they might feel like I'm not really a sports person, but I could probably play social netball. Or I'm not really a sports person, but I could probably run the Melbourne Mara 5K. I've seen those Catch the 5K apps. I could probably do that. There's something that feels particularly exclusive and prohibitive about strength sports and about individual sports, I think. And so I want to break that down. I think that, yeah, individual sports and strength sports offer unique benefits, but they also might very well meet the interests of an individual person. Like there's a kind of meme that floats around that says, hey, to all those girls that hated PE in high school, how's powerlifting going? It's like it is this sport that kind of like lends itself to people that might not feel athletic in the typical sense. And so I think that there's all these benefits that sport offer in the sense of, yeah, empowerment, self-expression, and then like fitness, strength, psychological benefits, all of these types of things, social networks, all of this kind of stuff. And someone has to open the door to people that haven't done it before. It's like there's plenty of coaches that are like eager to coach the top guy. But like how many coaches are very eager to introduce people and say like, hey, I can show you the ropes. I can do this with you. And I don't only mean in the sense of I can teach you how to squat. I can teach you how to adjust a squat rack, but also like I can teach you how to get ready for competition. I can show you the things that you need to buy to do that. I can show you how to enter a competition. I can support you on the day. I can help you manage your nerves. A powerlifting coach is not a strength coach. So some powerlifting coach has to be passionate about helping people that want to get started initially, because you can't just go from like commercial gym PT who like knows how to squat to top tier powerlifting guy. Someone's got to be in the middle.
You use the term like, opening the door of sports to people that haven't done much sports before. And one thing that I thought of as you were talking was like, you earlier said that you've always been in sports, like you'd always done sports. You were in sports from a very young age. It wouldn't be unreasonable for someone to look at you and consider you as someone who has done sports their whole life. It's like, um, how do I say
What
this?
would I
Like,
know?
no, yeah, like what do you know about getting started in sports because you've always done it? I
Yeah.
think of like when I first started coaching, like I was a good athlete and I found it very hard to relate to people that weren't good athletes because they didn't have the mindset, they didn't have the understanding, they didn't have the physical like development, even if it wasn't lifting related, but they didn't have the like coordination, so it actually took many years for me to really like empathize and understand, oh, okay, you really don't even know how to do the basics. How do you feel like, what is it that you do that you think makes people, attracted to you in this way? Or how do you kind of come across as more relatable when someone walks into the gym, they look at this like tall athletic person who owns a gym, you're a gym guy, and someone's walked in the gym who's never done weights before, never done sports before. How do you kind of bridge that gap between who you are and who they are?
It's a really good question. I think the first thing is you don't have to have had a shared experience with someone to cultivate empathy. Like,
Okay, that's good.
yeah, I think that's first and foremost. It's like you can cultivate empathy for experiences that you have absolutely no idea what that would be like. So I think that's the first one. The second one, the second thing I want to say, this is a kind of hard question. It's maybe I'm not relatable in the absolute sense of our athletic experiences or our experiences in gyms, our experiences in sport, our body types, our affinity for sport. but that doesn't mean I can't be relatable in a bunch of other ways. An example that comes to mind was, there was many years ago, I had this client who trained with me very, very early in the morning. And she kind of said that she'd rolled out of bed and like none of her clothes were like clean, they were dirty, they were torn. And she was like a little bit self-conscious about coming into the gym. But she said, if I know Billie at all, her pants are probably torn. And like, sure enough, she got to the gym and I had a hole in my track pants. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not relatable in the sporting sense, but I'm like just a very, very normal person. I just happen to like fitness. I just happen to like sports, but we can have a bunch of other common ground. The second thing that comes to mind on that is that I'm also not afraid to try new things. And I think that's a great lesson in cultivating empathy. While I can't be brand new at powerlifting again, while I can't be brand new at sport again, while I can't invent the experience of coming into sport at an older age, I can certainly have an adult experiences of being a total noob at something. I've, very recently like changed sports and I've been a total beginner at a new sport. I've been a very beginner at learning a language. I'm like newly a very beginner dancer. And so while I might not be able to empathize with coming into a powerlifting gym for the first time in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, I can absolutely empathize with walking into a new space, feeling like you have no idea what you're doing. You don't know what to wear. You don't know where to stand. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know the first step of buying anything you need for this thing. You don't know the pathway to learning. And I think all of those things like really feed into the cultivating empathy, but also having shared stories of saying like, oh, you embarrassed yourself at the gym this week. Oh, this is this thing that happened to me at dance class.
Yeah, clearly you're not someone afraid to start new things. You're always doing new things. And I think that is a great way to relate, I suppose, and understand like the position that people are in. In terms of getting started, one thing that I think is very unique about the way that we operate at TSF is that, as you described, people can kind of get started in our gym setting under guidance almost straight away. I think about the origin stories of a lot of good fitness personalities, I suppose, in the Melbourneian, specifically powerlifting scene. Obviously yourself, myself, Josh, and Jeremy at the gym, but as well as a broader community. A lot of them will have similar stories to you. Did my first comp, had no idea what I was doing, fumbled my way through. I think Josh went 5 out of 9. I wore weightlifting shoes for my deadlifts in my first comp, and I think, we all fumbled our way through. Do you think there's actually some value in fumbling your way through? And do you think there's things that people miss out on by starting with good coaching, by not having to figure it out themselves? Like, do you think there's any value in somebody saying, I really want to get started into powerlifting, but rather than going to Billie, I'm going to go to my local gym first and have a go for 6 months and see if I like it, and then, make a decision later on? Or do you think that the work that you do, especially with complete beginners, is the best way forward?
I could probably write a pretty solid pros and cons list.
Let's do it. That's what we're here to do. Let's write the pros and cons list.
I think an experience like a competition like that, like my first comp was an absolute shocker. Like I did the most hectic weight cut. I weighed in like 5 kilos too light. I thought I went like 6 or 7 from 9, but years later I looked at the scoreboard and I went 5 from 9. I actually didn't even realize I'd been red lighted. Like I missed my first deadlift. I like cried afterwards. Like the whole thing was extraordinarily hysterical and very on brand.
Right, whereas by contrast, just to interrupt you, by contrast, a lot of our lifters in their first comp ever will go 9 out of 9, perfect days, look like seasoned veterans.
Yeah.
Are they missing out on like the bumbling their way through phase?
I think it's make or break. I think it can either like put a bit of a fire in your belly and you're like, boy, do I need to start a redemption arc. You might very well be ignorant to how bad the day was, which was probably the case for me. It can either put a fire in your belly and go like, oh man, like I want to look like these guys that know what they're doing. I want to learn. If you don't even know how to get started with a coach, it might at least put you in the right room with coaches that you can then ask to coach you afterwards. But I do think on the other side, it can be like, it can be quite embarrassing. It can be, very confidence shattering. Dare I say it's just like largely a waste of time. Like I kind of look back and think I really could have gotten started earlier, sort of like learning the rules, training more efficiently, training smarter. My technique was very, very sloppy for a long time. I got hurt unnecessarily. I could have skipped a lot of that had I had guidance. The other side of that, though, that I have thought about a bit is I think about like when I'm traveling and I train at commercial gyms, and you'll almost always see like a small group of like teenage boys on the bench press. And like they'll have a weight on the bar, they bring it down a quarter rep, half rep, their mate fully like takes the bar as they press the bar out, and then they were like, that was sick, and they put more weight on. Like, you look at that and you're like, God, what are these guys doing? Like, that was absolutely ineffective, probably dangerous. This is insanity. But it's like, that's also where the love of the game grows. Like, I think for so many of us, we got started in the gym because we were like just reckless idiots in our youth, when fortunately our bodies were like a bit more robust and could handle more stupidity. But like, I remember this session that I did with a girlfriend in the gym when I was like probably like 18, and like every time one of us got a deadlift, we'd just add weight and go again, and we'd add weight and go again. Like, we probably did like 30 heavy singles, like, that were just absolutely putrid. But I was stoked. I was like, I know how to deadlift. I'm pretty strong. Like, I love this. This is fun. I love pushing myself in the gym with my friend. So maybe your first competition has an element of that. Maybe those like early training blocks, if you can even call that when you're not even following a program, maybe all of that does have benefit. I'm not going to say that training with me and like having a coach from day one is the best way. I think it probably is, but I think there's probably some merit to just like being a bit of an idiot and like just cultivating love and enjoyment.
Yeah,
But
for
I think
legal
you can
purposes,
cultivate
for
love and
our HR.
enjoyment doing things a bit more smart as well.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, for legal purposes, for our HR department, training with us is the best way to get started. But if it wasn't,
then training with 16-year-old boys in the commercial gym is probably the second best.
I wonder if there's like a survivorship bias thing as well, right? It's like you said before about make or break. Someone has like those shocking first experiences at the gym. They feel embarrassed. They feel silly because they didn't know the rules and stuff. And the few of them that actually get past that end up becoming, the only way you get past it is by going back home and researching and figuring things out. And then you end up becoming super passionate and you end up becoming Josh or you or I or Jeremy. Or the other way is they just leave the sport.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually think of that until you were just talking, and I realized, actually, I think most people that go about it the proper way, like with an actual coach and figure things out and get taught things so they actually have success their first time, are more likely to repeat. Like, they're more likely to do their second and third comps. Whereas, and this is just totally anecdotal, like this is just off vibes and not off anything, off any data set. But maybe people that go in on their own, have maybe like a more variability in their results. Like, some end up becoming super passionate and many end up never doing a second or third comp.
Yeah, I'd love to see a data set of the number of people that have done 1 comp, 2 comps, 3 comps, 4 comps, 5 comps, and of that data set, what percentage of people were coached in their first meet versus went in self-guided. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see that.
Did you have any mentors early on? Like, you're figuring things out on your own. You did your first comp by yourself. Like, how did you kind of transition from, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, to now having a powerlifting gym, being a powerlifting referee, coaching at good comps, going to good comps? Like, what was your transition from I know nothing to now I know a lot?
Yeah, it really did just start of like love of the game and just like personal interest. So yeah, that first comp, I didn't have a coach. Obviously I was a personal trainer already, so I had some idea what I was doing, but dare I say very little. Like, again, I was 20. And I was studying exercise and sports science at uni. So at the time that I was like writing my own programs, I was learning about periodization and like, gathering, my very early level of education. So like my early programs were like me and like this like study partner from uni. We would like write my programs together, and like he came with me to the first comp, and we were like, yeah, I reckon we can figure it out. So like early days, like honestly, it was a great experience as a student too, because it was, I was like really like using myself as like a bit of a case study to practice the things that I was learning at school. Shortly thereafter, I think I self-coached all the way up to junior nationals, 2015, where I took silver. I self-coached up until there, and at that point, I was able to compete at Asia Oceanias, which was I think 4 or 5 months later. So at that point, I thought I probably should get a coach. And at that point,
like, when you got to nationals, right? You got to Oceanias. Like, did you have someone who was guiding you? Like, how did you learn the rules, or was that all self? Like, was that all autonomously?
Autonomously. First comp, no guidance. The second comp, I had Nathan Baxter coach me on the day. So, I mean, that helped a lot. That helped a lot from the first comp to the second comp. At least I had someone like telling me when to warm up and how to warm up. I remember sending him like, hey, I think this is what I'm going to do for my comp plan. And he was like, the hell we are. Like, I was like, I'm thinking I'm going to open my deadlift at this number. And he was like, no, you're not, -20. So at least I had someone to like offer a sounding board and a voice of reason. But in terms of like my actual training, no. In terms of like learning the rule set, no. He was just there with me on the day. And then, yeah, after that, Andrew Tang coached me into Oceanias in December of that year. I mean, online coaching was like pretty rudimentary in 2015. I don't remember, I don't know if or how much technical feedback I even got. It might well have just been programming. It might well have been, a few, training blocks, like 3 training blocks between August and December. I can't remember how comprehensive it was, but I don't think it was extremely comprehensive. And you coached me at Asia Oceanias.
I remember.
Which, I mean, we had a shocker, to be fair.
The start of an excellent love story, though.
Start of an excellent love story, a shocking powerlifting career. And yeah, you coached me thereafter.
And so it sounds like your development was like a gradual thing, right? It wasn't like you had one, because like even a lot of this time, right, you were just training on your own, or with a friend, not necessarily in a powerlifting club, surrounded by other powerlifters. You didn't have like training partners or teammates or someone to like ask questions from, the way that, a lot of people who are training at powerlifting, especially in Australia, especially in Melbourne, have now. You have so many good gyms where people are actually training surrounded by coaches and peers. You just didn't have any of that. So it was a lot of it was like online. Like were you reading blogs and watching YouTube videos, or was it just I don't even know.
I'm gonna sound like a dinosaur, but like powerlifting gyms were not that common then either.
Right.
Like,
no, that's what I'm saying.
where I was living, there was none. Like there was none short of me driving to Sydney for 2 hours. And even in Melbourne, like I think we had Obsidian Strength in Melbourne and that was about it. Like powerlifting gyms were not really a thing. So there certainly wasn't like a physical community around me. I think I mostly just learned on the fly. Like I've never been someone to like watch heaps of YouTube or anything like this. It was really like, I like used myself as a case study. I practiced as I went along and I was studying at uni. And I really just learned on the fly.
It sounds a bit ridiculous when you reflect on it, right? You're like, how did I learn anything? It all just happens though over time, I suppose.
Yeah, like I mean, like at that point in time, like I wasn't a great powerlifting coach. Like I wasn't powerlifting coaching at that time. I was really just learning my own experience. I was, gathering my own experience of the sport and learning as I went. And like I guess that was really just like it was just cultivating love.
Yeah, like you're still like in the getting to know you phase, I suppose, of lifting. You're still figuring out what it was.
Yeah, me and powerlifting were dating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now you're in a long-term committed relationship. Powerlifting is me. I am powerlifting.
Powerlifting personified.
You mentioned, online coaching was very rudimentary at that time. There weren't any gyms. Now we live in a very different world. It's 2025. You've been online coaching for many years now. We've got the physical gym and we're surrounded by so many gyms. We recently had our TSF Team Champs, a big team event with many gyms across Melbourne, bringing their groups of lifters over. And a lot of those gyms are fantastic gyms, warehouse style gyms like us, with coaches that are working in person. But yeah, on the other side of that is like an online front. I wanted to ask you a little bit about what you think about, online and coaching versus in-person coaching. And the reason is because, one of the reasons why I wanted to even start this podcast was, I really value personally like face-to-face coaching as a concept. And as a developing coach, like if you're a developing coach, I think getting many hours in face-to-face is very important for your development. Whereas a lot of coaches will start just online and like never coach people in person, which could be a valid way to go about doing it, but I don't think that's the best way. How's your coaching practice developed? Like when you first started in the fitness industry in 2011 or whatever it was, you had a physical gym, you started in that space. You didn't have any online presence. Like, online wasn't a thing. Like Instagram was barely born. There was no, email. You didn't probably even have an email address, like, or, not one that was functioning the way it functions now. How has your coaching practice evolved over this time? And like, how do you actually apply that coaching practice?
Yeah, cool. I often think back to like I ran a whole gym. Like I had a whole gym from open to close without having an email signature. Like I didn't even know how to make an email signature.
Sent from iPhone.
Yeah, it was such a different time. Like online coaching was so rudimentary. So yeah, as I said, it was like my career completely started face to face. I was living on the Gold Coast. And I started with boot camps. That was how every personal trainer on the Gold Coast started, because it was like, if you were 20, like you're not charging a top dollar and the people that you're charging don't have top dollar. So yeah, the stuff we were running was just like, I was just running group stuff because it was cheap, accessible, and it like lined up with my skill set at the time. And then that funneled into, working in face-to-face in a gym because the seasons were changing, basically. I did start actually like offering some form of online coaching at that time, though. That was 2012, 2013.
And what did it
I
look
started,
like? Like, what was your online coaching? What was that?
it was programs delivered in PDF format,
Right.
and I'll use the term coaching loosely. PDF format, typically sets and reps with no intensity prescription.
So this wasn't live. Like you weren't doing live. Like you weren't doing
No,
live classes or anything like that.
it was programming.
Right.
Very, very loose programming with some degree of email communication to like touch base and see how things were going.
And you're accepting money for this.
More shockingly, people were paying me for this.
Right. People were parting with their own money.
That continued on for some time, but it was during that I actually had been growing a degree of an online presence, I think on Instagram, but Facebook more so at that point in time, from my hometown, which was closer to Newcastle. So I had, dealt with some disordered eating stuff in high school. And then in the years following, like I had like been dabbling in strength training. I'd like, become like educated in the gym and had like, recovered a lot. And I guess people were seeing that. And I guess like, I'm from a small town. People were seeing like, oh, Billy's kind of like the fitness girl now. So it ended up being that a lot of the inquiries I was getting online were getting in general were from my hometown. And it was at that point that I thought, okay, I'll go where the money is. And I moved back home and opened a gym. It went back to like largely face to face then. Like when I opened the gym, I don't know that I was really coaching online in any capacity then. My efforts were exclusively in the gym space. I wanted to touch on what you sort of said before about like a lot of people want to come into powerlifting coaching and just start coaching online. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, because I think I have this opinion that it would be best to start coaching face to face. And I do think probably a lot of that is maybe personal bias. I don't know how founded that is. I think I have a lot of personal bias because it's like, oh, that's how I started, or that's how things were done when I was younger. I think there's a lot of benefit in coaching. I still to this day think that face-to-face coaching is the best coaching. I think if you can access a coach face-to-face, if you can access them geographically, if you can access them financially, I do think face-to-face coaching is the superior coaching format. Like feedback is live in real time. If you need to have any kind of tactile stuff, you can do it. But I think more to the point, it's like everything is live in real time. You can demonstrate, you can adjust, everything's perfect. However, is it necessary to develop in-person skills if you are only going to go on to work in an online capacity? What do you think?
I don't think it's necessary. Like nothing's really necessary, right? Like the biggest example I can think of someone who just does online is like Mike Teixeira. And like, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he actually coached in person, like, the way that we are describing at all before he really like took off as an online coach. But I think it's a very different like group set. Like it's a different like, client base that he would be working with. It's people who don't need as much literal instruction about how to do exercises. The people that, someone like Mike works with, and for those that aren't following, Mike Teixeira is one of the, most decorated powerlifting coaches in modern times, and coaches out of his company called RTS. But someone like in that position, he doesn't need to teach people how to do like deadlifts. He doesn't need to motivate people as much potentially as maybe like we might have to with our clients, and try to, when I say motivate, we're not like, jumping up and down and clapping for them, but I mean as in cultivating motivation and cultivating a sense of like consistency and whatever. Whereas people that he's working with, they don't really need that. And so it's very hard to learn those skills unless you're like working with people in person. And then he said that coaching in person is like the superior form because it's tactile, because it's live. And, a conversation I was having recently is like with someone actually just yesterday, is that the coaching service is a relationship building service. You have to build relationships with people. And I think that's one of your strengths as a coach, is that you build relationships with the people that you work with very, very well. It's not like when you go to a cafe and you order a coffee, you don't necessarily need to develop a relationship with a barista, although that would be nice sometimes. And, many people have their regulars that they like to see and go to. But it's very transactional. It's like, I give money, you give me coffee. Or you go to, Kmart and I give you money and you give me clothes. That's very transactional. Whereas a coaching relationship, it's not transaction. It is transactional in some sense. Like I give you money, you give me program, but there is also a lot more to it where, the relationship building is like very important.
Yeah, you're not paying
It's like
per
a different set of
supervised
skills, I guess, you
set,
do
per program, per technique advice given. It's like it's a relationship, as you said.
Yeah, like you're actually trying to develop a relationship with people. Like I think like we're actually very much in a relationship industry where you're trying to, you know, earn trust and earn your place in someone's life over time, and that it's very hard to do online. And I guess if you want your coaching to be more transactional, like I give you money, you give me program, I give you money, you give me guidance, then like online is a very reasonable way to do that. And like I've been coaching online for like 10 years now, so. And that's not to say that I don't build relationships with my clients online, but definitely the relationships I build in person are 10 times more profound and easier to kind of facilitate. So it's just, I guess it's just different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess at this time of your career when you're working at the gym and you're running Bella, you weren't really doing online coaching. Was online coaching something you did specifically or explicitly, I should say, or did it just kind of happen?
It really just kind of happened. And I guess it's just supply demand, right? It was like, cool, I was getting these kind of inquiries. I lived interstate from where they were coming from. Okay, I suppose that I will provide a service so that I can like satisfy these kind of inquiries. Yeah, it wasn't something and that definitely speaks to like the lack of quality also and like thoughtfulness of the service I was offering at the time. It wasn't like I'd spent months or years mapping out a service that I was going to provide. It was like, oh yeah, I suppose I could do that. Here's a service. Certainly as I've matured and like grown in the industry, it's like, of course now, like if someone asks me to provide a service and it's not something that I currently offer, I don't just say, yeah, right. It's like, no, I would like sit down and like really like think about like, is this something that I actually even want to do? What would it involve? How would I offer that to a high standard? But back then it was like, yeah, I was young and the industry was like in much more of an infancy. It was like things were a little bit more on the fly.
So how has I want to stick to online for a little bit now, like as an online service, like how has your online coaching evolved over time? Like what's different about it now? And I kind of want to like transition slowly into like this idea of systems, like what are your systems like? And maybe sharing a bit more of your actual, your flow, your day-to-day work schedule. What are you doing now that you weren't doing 8 years ago or 10 years ago, especially in an online space? And maybe we'll redo the same, concept for face-to-face.
Yeah, it's got almost nothing in common with what I was doing 10 years ago.
No PDFs?
Yeah, no PDFs and now has intensity prescription. No, I really think of the coaching that I provide now as more like athlete management. It's not just here's your program, go to your training. It is, okay, what are the skills that you have? What are the challenges that you face? How's your stress? How's your sleep? How many children do you care for? How stressful is your job? How much time do you reasonably have to devote to exercise per day? How much can you recover? Okay, great. With that in mind, here's a program that I have tailored for you. This is how I would like it executed. Go away and do that this week. And in a week's time, we can come back and we can review the whole week and how it all went. How was your stress? How was your sleep? How were you able to recover from everything? Like, yeah, how did the actual sessions go? Of course, but there's so many factors that influence the training. So in large part, it's like the actual prescription of exercise and the technique of exercise, the overload of training, the progression of a training block is like one part of a coaching service. But I think all around that, and I think where my like strength really lies, is like I have to manage a person. I have to help manage a person so that they're actually able to do the training. I think that a lot of coaches, and maybe coaches that work with like top level lifters that don't require a lot of motivation, the coaching that they provide is like how to optimize the microcycle. The lifters that I work with are how do I make it so you can complete a microcycle, so you can complete a mesocycle, so you can complete a training block. What do I need to do to support you so that this can be completed on time in a timely manner to a really high standard where technique is like bang on, where intensity is bang on where I want it? How do I make that happen?
And so, okay, that's interesting. So then my question then is, so how do you make that happen? Like what are your actual systems? How do you get this stuff from people? And what are the challenges that you face when you're working with people who struggle to even finish training blocks and actually get all the training done?
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about how I kind of set up my week now, or just very much like what is the system for like one client?
However you want to kind of answer it, I suppose. Like,
Okay.
what's the? I mean, I've got a lot of questions. I'm thinking about how do you actually apply this, like your work. But I'm thinking also, like you mentioned about here's a program tailored for you. Like, how do you go about individualization? How do you go about tailoring programs and like working with individuals? Like, I just got a lot of questions about how this will happen. It's one thing in theory to say, I'm tailoring my programs to clients and I'm factoring in their sleep and their fatigue and their kids and blah 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 blah. But like, how do you actually do that? Like, are people feeling? And I know the answers to a lot of these questions, sort of. But for you, obviously, because we work together. But there are still things that I'm actually thinking about. Like, do you ask people? Do you fill in an app? Do they fill in a questionnaire? Are they reporting to you daily? Are you communicating with them? Are you having phone calls? Are you sending emails? Like, how does it all work?
Cool. They're like the bread and butter of the service revision all exists like online via Google Sheet programs and training videos. So for like one lifter, okay, at the start of the week, here's your training program for the week. Go off and do your training. At the end of the week, come back to me. Complete all of your training notes. How many sets did you do? How many reps did you do? At what load? What was the RPE? Any other notes that you'd like to share with me?
Hmm.
Send me your training videos of all the exercises that I've stipulated. For a total beginner, that might well be every single exercise so I can make sure it's performed well. For someone who's new with me, I want to see like how well can you report RPE relative to what it actually looks like. Can I make sure that you're actually performing exercises in the way that I had intended? And then there's a weekly check-in form, which really covers off a lot of lifestyle stuff. There's opportunity to obviously reflect on training, nutrition, opportunity to ask questions, but really reflect on life as a whole. Once I've got all that information gathered, okay, great. Now I can provide technique feedback on the week. Now I can provide adjustments to your training program for the week ahead. Now I can, respond to the other like lifestyle factors that you've mentioned, whether that's providing adjustments in the training or simply like talking about troubleshooting and working through it. I provide my weekly check-ins via Loom. I do have pretty regular phone calls with a lot of my online clients, but the frequency of that really depends on the individual. I do have clients who I have a phone call with every single fortnight, and those people are typically, it goes one of two ways. Either someone who is like extremely motivated, who like has aspirations to become a coach, wants to ask questions, wants to learn, and really wants to, like utilize me as a resource. Or it could be someone that really struggles with like keeping powerlifting as a priority in a very busy schedule, who needs someone to like, continue to bounce back from and say, okay, cool. Like, how do I keep showing up for this? Other people I coach might well just touch in with me on video call like once every 6 months because their life might not permit the luxury of that, of just being able to carve out time to chat with a coach, perhaps just getting the training in as a stretch. And at that point, it might just be, okay, cool. Like, let's touch in on quarterly or 6 monthly intervals and like, map out the next 3 to 6 months. Let's discuss like overarching challenges and blah, 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 blah. That's kind of how the systems of how things run. In terms of how I like, tailor for the individual and write a program that suits them, I'll talk about like what I mean about that from like a more lifestyle perspective rather than from a optimizing the athlete for strengths and weaknesses, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it has to be totally personalized in many cases. It's like, you can have a general idea of like how you want to plan a training week or like a general template of how you typically coach, a general template for a programming system that you might have. But there are going to be so many cases where you have to modify that so much that you end up just throwing it out the window because it doesn't even work. So examples that I might have for that is like, I have got one client right now who consistency has just been like a really big struggle. And so sessions have to be like twice a week for 30 to 40 minutes. It can take me 30 to 40 minutes to put my knee sleeves on. So it's like writing a session that could be productive, that would have any kind of effective training dose in such a small opportunity to get training in a week is like a very real challenge, but you have to find a way. It's like, if this is all the person that can give you, and this is important to them, it's like, okay, cool. I'll do my very best. Managing expectations. There might be blocks where it's like, we're not going to improve in this, or actually you've given me such tight constraints. The best I can do is just have you not regress. But you do have to work with a person there and go, okay, cool. Like, what things can we superset? What are the exercises that we're going to get the most bang for our buck? What are the things that are going to be most potent for you right now? And putting them in those exercise slots. If you've got 6 exercise slots in a week, then like, how can we best use those exercise slots?
What would you say to, a lifter who wants to take on coaching, but they feel like, their life's so busy right now that it would be a waste of time and money? Like for example, you said you've got someone that's doing 2 sessions a week for half an hour. They're paying for coaching, and from what I can tell, they're not exactly getting the most out of their coaching in some sense, right? Like there'd be a lot of people who would feel like, I don't really want to do that until I feel like I'm in a position where I can actually give it my all. What's your opinion or perspective or advice for someone in that position?
My
Or like
attitude
this
is you
person,
can,
this case study that you're talking about, like, do you feel, I don't know, like at what point do you say like, dude, I need to pull your socks up and actually get some training in because you're not wasting your time, but you're not getting the most out of yourself versus like you need to meet a client where they're at, but like how far can you go before it's like not even a coaching service anymore?
yeah. I think what you just said about pull your socks up is like, that's the role of the coach. So my general attitude is like, a coach is most useful to you when you have more constraints, when things are going worse for you. It's like the coach's job is a very, very easy job when everything's going fine, when you don't have any injuries, when you have no time constraints. It's like at that point, the role of a coach is very easy. And if someone is like reasonably educated, this lifter is actually like very smart and very intelligent as far as training goes. She could write her own programs. But as it stands, it's beneficial to have me in her corner because I'm the one that can say, okay, actually, you have put too many constraints right now, and I need you to pull your socks up. Or we can live with these constraints for the next month, but at the end of that, we need to pull our socks up. This training dose actually isn't enough. So we can get away with it for a few weeks because I understand you have these constraints, and then we need to push it more. The role of the coach is that. The role of the coach isn't simply the writing programs. It's also the support and like giving hard truths when that's what someone needs to hear.
Right. So it's like is there a way that you like can systemize this, or like do you have frameworks or like rules of thumb or like ways of knowing, like, I guess, like how do you know when to push and when to pull?
I think that coaching is an art and a science. And that's like, that really boils down to empathy, right? It's not like it's not like I have a checklist that says, okay, on this 8-point scale, I'm going to determine at what point I need to start being firm rather than being so compassionate. It's like that doesn't exist. At some point, you just need to go, okay, cool. Like I have an understanding of like how lifting works and how strength training works and how to improve. And I also know the person in front of me because I've been working with them for some length of time. And so, yeah, it's empathy. It's understanding a person in front of you and understanding when you push, like asking the questions and having the empathy that if I push you right now, it's because I actually know you have the capacity to do that. Whereas if I pushed you last week, that wasn't going to work. That wasn't going to be effective because you actually didn't have the capacity to push last week. And that only comes from getting to know someone and asking the right questions and working with them. If you push someone when they actually don't have the capacity to be pushed, they're not going to be your client next week. And nor are they going to improve. It's actually no one benefits from that. You have to know when pushing someone is actually an effective thing to do.
So do you think that, like working on an athlete's mental game, being respectful of like ideas like burnout, fluctuating motivation, it very much sounds like that you think that's very much your role as a coach, as opposed to, like there are people I know in the industry who would say things like, if a lifter doesn't want to train, it's not my job. Like they need to do it for themselves. Or like I'll even see personal trainers or coaches put out advertisements that say, if you're ready to make a change, like shoot me a message. Or I'm looking for people that are motivated, that really want to make a change or whatever it might be. So those are the people I want to work with. Like, do you think there's some validity in that, and that, a lifter has to have, of course a lifter has to have autonomy in that sense, but how much of it, or how much responsibility do you take for helping manage someone's mental approach to their training and their fitness and their strength?
Yeah, I think first thing I want to say is that coaches absolutely have the right to say like who they're actually willing to work with. And if a coach doesn't want to be a motivator, that's actually like a totally reasonable like population of people to work with. Online coaching does require a degree of self-motivation more than in person does. It's like if you are someone who really struggles with motivation, then doing like one-on-one personal training is probably a great way to go because like you have to make your appointment. Whereas if you're someone that really struggles with self-motivation, then online coaching is going to be something that's quite hard because I can't come and do the session for you. I can't come and be like, hey, come on, let's go to the gym. Like I'm online. So with that in mind, you do need to have a certain degree of self-motivation, but also self-management. In online coaching, often say like the weeks that your training doesn't go to plan are the weeks that I most need to hear from you. If on a given week, you only get 1 out of 3 sessions in, it was done kind of shit, and you're like, oh, I didn't do my check-in because like I didn't get much training done in this week. Sorry, coach, I'll talk next week. Like that's useless. Whereas if you say, hey, training was shocking this week, I was hit with X, Y, and Z challenge. I only got through this much training. Here's the videos of what I did. This is my plan for the week ahead. Or, hey, coach, can you help me with a plan for the week ahead? Hey, what do you think I should do moving on from here, given that I didn't get all my sessions done this week? That's the role of me as a coach. Maybe that's not a role of all coaches, but that's the role that I play as a coach. It's like, okay, cool. If life's not going so well, if things aren't really going to plan, how can I help you so that next week can get closer to on plan?
Tell me a little bit about your face-to-face coaching philosophy and how it's different to online. Are the people that you work with in person different to the people you work with online, or they tend to be very similar demographic? And what are the challenges? I think that's probably what I'm more interested in. Like, what do you think? We've talked a lot about the challenges of online, but what are the challenges of coaching in person?
People I work with face to face tend to have a lower training age. The people I work with online tend to have at least a slightly higher training age. In the gym, face to face, I'm very enthusiastic to work with an absolute total beginner. Online, I do find that much harder, and I would be more inclined to say to someone, go spend time with a PT at a local gym for a month, even first, so that you can learn the fundamentals, because teaching absolute fundamentals online can be very, very challenging. So the people I work with in the gym tend to be even more beginner. Terms of challenges in the gym, I think it's like the challenges I see, it's like, again, like I'm working with people that are beginner to early intermediate for the most part. The people that I'm working with in the gym have a lot of the similar challenges. It's like creating routine, creating consistency, and managing life stresses. If training hasn't been something that's had a priority position in their schedule for their entire adult life to date, it's how to cultivate that in there. I do think that that's a lot easier to manage face to face. Not all the time, but in many cases, because you do have the physical thing to come from. You do have the person that you're seeing. You do have training partners around you. There is a lot of benefit in training in a very supportive environment. That's like, we're not working in a commercial gym. We're training in like a very community oriented space. So therefore, encouraging someone to come on in and get their training done is a lot easier when they know that they're going to have a coach there to support them on the day, when they've got training partners that they're excited to see, when they're in an environment in which they're comfortable training. Those barriers might exist much more online when it's, okay, I don't have community. I'm nervous about going to the gym. I'm nervous about judgment. I don't have a training partner for accountability. I'm not excited to go because I don't particularly like the environment. So, those challenges of consistency exist face to face, but I think it's just a little bit easier to manage.
I think a really interesting thing that I want to comment on is you're talking a lot about the challenges that the clients face. And I want to ask you about the challenges that you face. What are the things that you find more difficult about working in person? What are the things that you as a trainer and coach find, this is challenging my practice, this is making it hard for me to do my job, rather than the challenges that the actual clients themselves are facing?
A great question.
Like, for example, in the earlier you're talking about, if you with your online clients, that if you ask the right questions, you'll get to know them, and then you'll know when to push someone or when to be a bit more empathetic. And is your ability to get to know someone in person different or easier or harder? Are you in as frequent contact with the people in person as you are online? And that contact's different, right? Like, do you still have online communication with people that you see in person very much? What things do you wish, I guess, like, maybe another way to rephrase it is like, what things do you wish from your online practice you could just apply in person or the other way around? Like, I guess, like, I'm curious to compare the different modalities in your work.
Yeah. I guess right now it's like I very minimally do one-on-one type coaching face to face. The model we have at TSF is more like club-based coaching, whereby I'll be coaching a number of people at the same time. So online coaching, I obviously have this very private communication channel whereby we can, a client might feel very comfortable to share with me things that are like really real challenges that they're having that they wouldn't want anyone else to hear, but they want to tell me as their coach or as a trusted person in their life. In the gym, it can be harder to find those opportunities, I suppose. They're not impossible. Like, there's absolutely members in the gym who will message me and say, hey, can I meet you for X, Y, at certain times we can talk about X, Y, and Z thing. Or, we'll find opportunities just to stand aside at the gym and have those kind of conversations. But I guess in a community gym-based setting, it's harder to have, maybe more private opportunities for discussion. But on the flip side of that, they're people that I see every day. I'm seeing these people in the gym, 3-4 times a week. It's like that rapport building can be a lot faster face to face. They're just different. I wouldn't say that one is like better or worse than the other in terms of like fostering relationships, to be honest. I think, like you kind of said before, like I probably have much better relationships with my face-to-face clients than online. I actually don't really believe that to be the case. I think online is some people I've been working with for a really long time. You know, we have like in-depth communication every single week. It's like those relationships are very robust, and I might never well meet them. They're just different.
So what do you do with those people in person to get like the most out of them? Like, for those that don't realize, the people that we work with at TSF specifically tend to be people who, not tend to, but it's a shared responsibility, between the coaches. We're all working on them. I guess, like, how do you get out of them the most that you can when you have like a limited capacity to develop those relationships, I suppose?
Yeah, obviously the model at TSF is quite unique. So yeah, no one at the gym is coached by an individual coach. They're coached by the team of 4 coaches. But naturally within that, lifters within the gym will probably gravitate to one or two of us more than the others. There'll be a coach that they more closely align with, that they find more inspiring, whose systems they prefer more. And that's one of the beauties of the model, is it's like you can learn from 4 different people, but might well seek more support from someone that you tend to be more aligned with. With that in mind, it's like our rostering is also such that we are going to be seeing, the same people many days throughout the week. So you can actually build quite a robust relationship. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it comes down to we're always adequately staffed, so that if there's someone that does need to have a lot of attention, it can happen. If we identify that someone in the gym is struggling and might need more help, the roster can be adapted to permit that to happen, so that someone can have more attention if we can identify that it's needed. It's like we're only a small team. It's not like we're this massive coaching squad where and it's also like not like we have this huge member base where the members are just a number. That's not the case at all. It's like we're a small gym with a small coaching team and a small member base. So therefore the needs of the members are very easy to be identified, and you can spend that time with them. So if there was someone in the gym that I could say like, hey, like this person needs to be like elevated, this person needs more support, it's like very reasonable to make that happen. But similarly, it's also just recognizing that everyone in the gym is a different individual person, and spending the time with them that they need, and getting to know them. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that was great. We talked a little bit about your background and kind of how, you got into coaching and, what your role is and stuff. Do you feel like you're in a state of flux now in your coaching? Do you think things are changing? Like, what things have changed in the last year or two in your practice? Are your passions shifting? Right now you're talking about your passion lying primarily in working with beginners and early intermediates, getting them started, getting them through their first comp, making sports more accessible. Does that feel like something that's been quite static, or do you think there's even things that are changing now that you're shifting towards or you're feeling more excited about?
I think the demographic that I like to work with has remained like reasonably static, and that's something that I still really enjoy. I think something that does fluctuate over time is how much time I spend face to face versus how much time I spend online coaching. Something that I've definitely found in my career is that I can't be doing all of one or all of the other. Mm-hmm. If I am entirely online, I do struggle with I like having face-to-face interaction. I like coaching face-to-face. I like being in the gym. So in the times that I have coached exclusively online, for example, during the pandemic and when you and I were traveling, I do feel like I'm missing something in gratification. I also miss out on comp day coaching, which is like kind of the pinnacle of like our work years. So if I was exclusively online, that's something that I would really miss. But similarly, I love coaching face to face. It's something that I really want to do, but it's extremely exhausting. And the nature of the fitness industry is such that we work mornings and we work nights. It's like I'm not going to work every morning and every night of the week. I simply cannot. So it's like I definitely oscillate between doing more of one or more of the other, depending on what my personal preference is at the time, and I let that kind of flow. At the moment, I am loving being in the gym. So it's like I'm doing much less online coaching, and I'm loving being at TSF. I'm loving running the beginner programs. And being with the members on the gym floor. So that's where I'm putting my time, effort, and energy. And I think that's something beautiful about coaching, is that you can your career can ebb and flow based on what you're doing and what you have capacity for.
Do you think your approach to coaching has changed over the last couple of years now that you're not doing powerlifting so much, or do you think your relationship with powerlifting doesn't matter? So is that even relevant? Do you feel more disconnected, more connected? I mean, ultimately it's just fitness, and you're in the gym and you're still training and stuff. but is it different?
I don't know if it has evolved because I've been less involved in powerlifting as an athlete, or if it's evolved because like I've gotten older and my clients have gotten older and I've become more attentive to the idea of just being a generally healthy person. So I've obviously like, yeah, stepped a little bit away from powerlifting as an athlete, and have been dabbling in other sports. And with that has meant that I have been like pouring into like other exercise modalities. I've been working more on my fitness and I've been working more on my mobility, for example. Um, have I seen that more in my clients training at the same time? Yes. But I don't know that that's necessarily driven from my own interest as opposed to their awareness and my awareness that that's something that's important. My clients are saying like, hey, like, I'm pretty strong, but like I haven't been doing much cardio, so I'd really like to do that. Or like the people around me are focusing on being more fit. So that's something that interests me too. And I would like to do more of that. Or like, I'm noticing that I'm waking up pretty stiff in the morning. So like, yeah, let's probably address that. So I think that those things have happened alongside each other, but I don't know that that's so much a byproduct of like my personal interests so much as maturing both of me and the people that I work with.
I mean, I guess it's the natural continuation, right? Like as you age, you evolve, your practice evolves. Like we've already spoken about how your like work has evolved over the years, and the people you're working with has changed, and I'm sure it'll continue to change over the next few years. Do you think, like it's a bit of a lame question, but I suppose like how do you see it evolving over the next few years? Like where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Like is this something that you think you'll continue to just like do because you enjoy it or you're passionate enough, or do you foresee even changes to your passions leading to changes in your work and practice?
I really don't know. I am curious. I often say, like, when I introduce someone to TSF for the first time, I say, like, when TSF first opened, it was a powerlifting club. It was like, we are competitive powerlifters and we powerlift in here. I remember once upon a time, someone was like, we should have cardio equipment. And you were like, no way, we're a powerlifting gym. And it's like, that's evolved over time, right? We went from being like very powerlifting mad to kind of recognizing that we like being strong, we like strength training, and that can play a very different role for a lot of different
Now we
people.
have cardio equipment in the gym.
And now we have cardio equipment in the gym. But powerlifting can be an avenue to compete at a very high level. It can be something that you participate in competitively at a recreational level, or maybe you just strength train because it's good for you. And, TSF caters for all of those things. So that's been like a very obvious progression for, I think, you and I over the last 8 years. As for like how things go over the next sort of 5-10 years, I don't know. I'm really interested to see. I often think that like, the good percentage of personal trainers are probably under 30. Am I still going to be running a warehouse style powerlifting gym when I'm 50, 60? I have no idea. I don't really know how that goes. As it stands currently, I love running the gym. I do probably expect that maybe like I'll do increasingly less online coaching over time. As like my interest goes towards more like growing the community in the gym and like being a more active participant in like my local community. I kind of see it going that way. And maybe diversifying a little bit more into strength training to support other sports. I don't know, just preliminary thoughts, but I don't know. I'm curious to how it goes. I just think that like, yeah, again, working in fitness, it's like you're able to chase your interests. So I don't know. I don't know where my career will go. It'll probably just follow my interests.
What do you think it is about you and the way that you work that you think makes you so well suited to work with like beginners and getting them started? I suppose like compared to say other coaches, like maybe like another coach who's working with a beginner versus yourself. Like what are your strengths and weaknesses, or mainly strengths, I suppose, that kind of help you get someone going? Or like what are the things that, let's say another coach is listening to this who is getting started as a coach in general, who will inevitably be working with beginners, need to keep in mind?
I'm afraid this is going to sound gloaty. I think I'm personable, and I think my biggest strength is that I'm warm, I'm extremely open, and like I have love pouring out of my pores. So like when someone walks into the room and I see that they're nervous, it's like my very natural response is to like make sure they feel comfortable. It's like, it's not like, oh, this is my job, this is what I have to do. It's like, oh, I see that you're nervous and I see that this is a really big step for you. Like it's a very natural thing for me to want to support them. So I think if you want to work with beginners, if that comes naturally to you, like I think you'll do great. If that doesn't come naturally to you, it's like, how can you see that this is a very hard thing for someone? How can you come to empathize that like strength gyms are horrifying? Like gyms are terrifying. So it's like if someone has like taken like the brave step of contacting a strength coach, of contacting a powerlifting coach, and then stepped over the threshold into a gym that is like loud and grungy and full of stuff that you don't know how it works and metal and like big, strong people. It's like, yeah, how do you cultivate that? You can see that and go like, this must be really, really hard for you. What do you need? What do you need? How do I make this comfortable for you?
It's funny that your answer to the question, what, of how do you work with beginners wasn't related to actual training. Like it wasn't like knowing how to assess someone's big background or knowing how to teach a squat to a beginner. It was make someone feel comfortable.
Because if you know how to coach, that's easy. It's like, that's easy to learn. Like teaching someone how to, conducting pre-exercise screening, teaching someone how to control their pelvis, helping troubleshoot a squat so they can squat to depth, making someone comfortable on a bench. It's like, that's the basics. That's the stuff you learn in your Cert 3-4. That's so easy. Like the stuff that comes hard is like, the other stuff. It's like, of course that wasn't answering my question. You're a powerlifting coach. You should be doing that already.
Yeah, it's like the contrast between soft and hard skills, right?
Yeah, like if you can't teach someone to control their pelvis, like what are you even doing here? Sort that out. It's like that's the absolute like bare minimum of being able to work in this role.
And so how do you get good at those soft skills? Like how do you actually figure out those intangibles?
Time in the trenches and like just being a good person. I don't know, read fiction. Read fiction, learn about how different people think, go outside, make some friends, touch some grass, go do something new the first time for yourself. Like if you've only ever done things that you're good at, go and do something you're bad at. Like walk into a space you've never been in before. Walk into a dance studio. Like walk into a tennis club. Walk into an improv class and see how uncomfortable it is to walk into a room you've never been in before, to be surrounded by people that you think all know each other and they're all buddies and they're definitely looking at you because it's your first day and you obviously have no idea what you're doing there and you're probably dressed inappropriately because you didn't know what the dress code was. Like go walk into that room and like you'll learn really quickly that like this is a really uncomfortable experience and like you'll very quickly realize what you need to feel comfortable in an environment. When we receive an inquiry at TSF about like booking a trial session, I always reply and say, I tell them what to wear. I tell them what to bring. I tell them which door to enter through. Hey, when you arrive, walk in through the roller doors, tell anyone that you're here for your trial session and they will grab the coach for you. Wear whatever you're comfortable training in. Flat-soled shoes are preferred, but whatever shoes you have are amazing. You can wear anything that you're comfortable training in. Bring a bottle of water and a towel. That's all that you need. It's like, I had a panic attack trying to go to dance class on the first day and I couldn't even get on the bus because I didn't know if I was wearing the right clothes. So it's like, learn what it's like to do something for the first time. And then it becomes much more simple to provide the support that another person needs.
It's funny how you relate like other like not related things to like coaching and work. Like I guess like you're taking lessons from other areas and then applying them in a very direct way to training and like the fitness industry, I suppose.
Because it's all relevant. Again, it's like the actual specifics of like lifting a weight, pretty simple, but it's like being supported enough and brave enough to actually get in the room in the first place. It's probably a bit harder for the population that I work with.
Right. Thank you for your time. I think this has been a great conversation. It's good to hear the energy and passion come out of you because I hear it all the time. And so to put it on record and hopefully have more than 7 people listen to this, probably my mum, Jules, maybe Josh and Jeremy, and like 3 other people probably will listen to it. But no, I appreciate you sharing all of that because, like obviously I respect you as a coach and I hear we have these conversations all the time, but to formalize it in a way like this has been really pleasant.
Thank you for having me on as a guest. It's been really special.
Yeah, you can say thank you for the opportunity. I really am grateful for you.
Thank you. And I'd like my office back.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot.